Test-driven development, TDD. You've heard the term and you're wondering what it's all about. Well, you've come to the right place. When you hear of TDD, test-driven development, you should think of it like any other test. A math test, for example. Let's try taking a test at mathonlymath.com and click on Math Quiz 1 to see what test we have. We have a first question. 19 plus what will give you 42? And that's the same thing as saying 42 minus 19, which is 23. That means that if you want to get this question correctly, we'll have to click A and then submit answer. So no matter what other answer we put here, it's going to always return wrong for us. For example, let's submit 42 and look at that, D is incorrect, try again. Let's try 0 and C is incorrect, try again. Let's try 61, B is incorrect, try again. So the computer, the website is expecting a particular answer, and no matter what we do, no matter the kind of working we do, the computer is expecting a particular output, and that is 23. So once we say, oh, 23 is our output, and then click on submit answer, look at that, A is correct. Oh, well done. Let's try the same thing for question 2. What is the symbol of pi? And that is B. So what, even if we try A is going to be wrong. We make up a new symbol altogether, that's going to be wrong because we're expecting a particular output, which is B. So we have the test and we have the answer. It's now left for the person taking the test to give us a working that will make him arrive at that particular answer we're expecting. So no matter what that person does, you have to arrive at the answer we've already predefined. What is the symbol of pi? 19 plus what is going to give you 42? You can use a calculator, you can decide to count with your hand, or use a pen and a paper, but we need 42. If you get 38, you're wrong. This is TDD actually. It's like setting a test for developers. Here's a good example with code. We're going to take another test. This time we'll use Hackerrank. If you've not used Hackerrank before, you can try this out. Look at the URL right here. Try signing up. I already have an account, so I'm going to log in instead. Scroll down and we can see skills available for practice. Click on algorithms. Then we have a first one. So solve challenge. So look at this. Complete the function submit first to compute the sum of two integers. Function prototype in submit first in A in B, where A is the first integer input, B is the second integer input. Sum of the above two integers. So here are the sample inputs, A equal to 2 and B equal to 3, and the sample output is 5. So what we want is the sum of the two integers. We need the function that when we run it and then we give it two parameters A and B, it's going to add A and B and then give us the answer. Like we've seen in this example, A equal to 2, B equal to 3, sample output is 5. That means that 2 plus 3 is 5. Now look at what we have. Line 22, hint type return A plus B below. We have a function submit first A plus B. Let's try to submit the code first of all without typing anything. Look at now, we have test case 0, test case 1, a wrong answer. Expected output is 5. Instead, we're not getting anything. Look at that. So Hackerrank is trying to run this submit first function and it's giving it two arguments, A and B, but then we're not getting any return value. Instead, we're getting undefined. A function without a return value returns undefined. So instead of that, let's try writing something here. So return, and then we're going to try A plus B. Look at that. Right, and we try to submit the code. We have a test which has passed. So no matter what we do inside here, even if we decide to do this, sum of values is equal to A plus B, and then instead of returning A plus B here, we return sum of values, or we click on the submit code as long as we're getting that expected output. So the different test has been written, and we're expecting that when we write something like this, when we write solve me first 2 and 4, we're going to get 6 as the answer. We're expecting that when we write solve me first 2 and 9, we're going to get 11 as the answer. So what if, for example, we come to line 22 and instead of a plus b, we do this a minus b and then click on submit code. See that our test cases have failed because the function we're writing is not returning the expected output. So this is test-driven development. The test has been written. Now the developer has to write a function that will give us that expected output. And if you don't give that expected output, it means you've not met the specification. Your function is not doing what it's supposed to do. This is what the application is supposed to do. Look at it. It's been predefined. You're going to write codes to meet this specification, and if your code does not meet the specification, the test is going to fail. This is test-driven development. You write different tests like what Hackerrank did. We can't see the test Hackerrank has written now. It's happening behind the scene, but then we'll have to write code to meet that specification. So in TDD, you're going to be the one to write the tests yourself, and then you write your code to meet that specification. So since you've set the predefined output, you want your function to be able to do this, you want your application to be able to do this or that. And then if you now come to start building your application after writing those tests, you start building your application. If those tests are failing, it means you're not meeting the specification. So you're going to build your application, you're going to keep refactoring that function you're writing. Whatever it is you're doing, you keep refactoring it until your test passes. Then you know that you're meeting specification, you're doing the right thing. Let's build an application to test our knowledge on test-driven development. Yeah, pun intended. We're going to be building an age calculator. That means that when you input your year of birth, you're going to get an output with your age. For example, if you input 2005, you're going to get an output of 15 years. So you'll be 15 years old if you're born in 2005. Right here, we have an index.html file with the basic structure of our application. I've left the link to this code base in the description. When we scroll down to line 9, we see we have a div with class text center empty -5. So this is using bootstrap classes, and then a header with text. I can tell you how old you are if you tell me when you were born, and then a form that has an input type number which collects your year of birth. So on line 13 we have a form with input type number, and then we have a submit button. So you have the form and then you click on the submit button to see how old you are. You input your year of birth, you click on the submit button to see how old you are. Let's test this out. Let's see what this looks like in our browser. Click on the Explore, and I'm going to be running this with the live server. Live server is a VS Code extension for running HTML code. Now look at our browser. I can tell you how old you are if you tell me when you were born. So the way this is supposed to work, let's write 2005 and click on tell me. So when we click on tell me, we are supposed to see right below the tell me button you are 15 years old. This is being recorded in 2020, by the way. Notice on line 12 our form has an event listener on submit, which is calling an updateDomWithAge function. So we're going to be writing this function later on, and what this function is supposed to do is take the user's year of birth from the input field and then output the user's age. So update the DOM with the user's age. We're also going to need another function named calculateAge, and this function's job will be to take into arguments the user's year of birth and the current year, calculate the user's age, and then sends that age as its output. So it takes in two arguments, the user's year of birth and the current year, then returns the user's age. But before we write that function, let's practice TDD. So what we're going to do now is see how we can write a test case that ensures that if we call our calculator function and then pass in two arguments, let's say 2015 and then 2020, our test case should expect 5 to be the output. So let's see how we can do that. To write our test, we're going to need a testing framework, and there are a lot of JavaScript testing frameworks But what we'll be using for this course is Jest. So let's quickly search for Jest on Google. Now look at Jest, jestjs.io. We click on this link and we have Jest. So look at this. Jest is a delightful JavaScript testing framework with a focus on simplicity. To use Jest, we're going to be needing Node. So as you can see here, it works with projects using Babel TypeScript Node. I'm guessing you've heard of Node.js before. We're not going to be running the test on our browser. We'll run the test in our terminal instead. And to do that, we'll need a JavaScript engine that works outside the browser. And this is the reason we're using Node.js. To install Node, you can click on the download for Windows. If you're using Mac OS, you'll be taken to a Mac OS download link instead. And the setup is pretty straightforward. You download and then you set it up like you would set up any other application. A successful Node.js installation comes with npm, which is Node Package Manager. So in order to use Jest in an application, we'll need to bring it in as a package. Now let's go to the documentation for Jest to see how we can use it in an application. So look at this. Getting started. Install Jest using yarn add dev Jest. So yarn is also a package manager. npm stands for Node Package Manager. Yarn is another package manager. These package managers are used for installing dependencies like Jest, which we're about to use in our application, or npm install save dev Jest. So let's try installing Jest in our application. What we're going to do is right in the folder where we have our index.html file, we're going to open our terminal and then run this command. So I'm going to open my terminal right here in VS Code. But just before we run the command, let's initialize npm in our folder. And to do that, we'll simply type npm init, init, that stands for initialize. Our package name, by default, it's the name of the folder, which is TDD intro. You can decide to write whatever you want. Version 1.0.0, description, let's keep that for now. And test command, so for test command, we're going to skip that for now and skip. And is this okay? Yes. All right. Now notice what happened. When we come to the Explorer, see that we now have a package.json file. So this package.json file is going to contain the description of our application, which is now an npm package, and then all the other packages we want to include or use in our application. Currently, we have the name, version, description set up, and then we have scripts, tests. There's no test specified yet. Although you can decide to write your name there and then the license for it. Now that our application is an npm package, we can come back to our terminal and then run the command for installing Jest. Look at that, Jest has been successfully installed. And then notice that we also have a package log.json file, which is for the install dependencies. Let's click on the package.json file. We can close the terminal now. And notice on line 11 to 14 we have dev dependencies, and Jest is part of our dev dependencies. So we have Jest version 26.5.3. Now that we have Jest installed, we can use it in our application. What we're going to do now is create a file for writing our test. And in order for Jest to recognize our file, we have to give it an extension of test.js. So when we run Jest is going to look for files with the extension .test.js. Let's create an index.test.js file. Notice that the icon changes in VS Code to indicate that is a test file. Let's write our first test. We'll start by creating a function named calculateAge. And it's going to be empty for now. To write our test, we'll start with the keyword test, which is a function that Jest is going to recognize. And this test function takes in two arguments. The first argument being the description of the test, and then the second argument, a function in which we're going to write a test case. So let's describe our test. This test is supposed to calculate a user's age. So calculate a user's age. Notice that I use the backtick to represent the string so that I can use the single quote for users. Then a comma for the next argument, which is a function. Inside our function, we're going to use another keyword, expect. So this is another method from Jest. And inside this expect method, we'll add the function we want to test. That's the calculateAge function. And remember, our function is supposed to take in 2 parameters. So let's quickly add those 2 parameters on line 1. Year of birth and current year. Alright, the user's year of birth and then the current year. So calculateAge function, we're going to pass in the user's year of birth, which is 2015. And the current year is 2020. The next thing we're going to do is add a .to_be property, which is also a method that's going to be returned from the expect method. So the expect method returns several other methods, and one of them is .to_be, and inside it 5. This is like reading English language. Our test calculates a user's age, and then right inside our first test case, expect the result of this function we're calling, expect its result to be 5. So this is our test. Now let's run this test. Back to a terminal, what we want to do is npm test. Now this is going to throw an error because we've not specified the exact test command it should run. So let's go to the package.json file, and inside the package.json file, remember when we said we'll get back to our test script, what we're going to do to be able to run the test is remove this echo error no test specified and write jest. After that is done, we can come back to a terminal and type in npm test. Nice. Jest has run our test and it's failed, which is a good thing. Remember, if our test passes when we've not written anything yet in our calculateAge function, it means we're doing it wrong. So it's supposed to fail because our calculateAge function does not return the expected output. So look at this: calculates a user's age, expected 5, received undefined. Like I said before, a function that has no return statement returns undefined by default. So expected 5, received undefined instead. Now what we're going to do is write our calculateAge function so that when we pass in the year of birth and the current year as its arguments, we'll get the user's age. Let's see how we can do that, and then we run our test. Right inside our calculateAge function, to get the user's age, we're going to subtract the user's year of birth from the current year. So what that means is we'll declare age as a variable, and then current year minus the user's year of birth. That's the age, and we're going to return this age. You see that this is our calculateAge function. Let's run our test and see if we've written our function correctly. npm test, and look at that, calculates a user's age successful. Test shoots 1 pass 1 total. We have written a test successfully. That means that if you call a calculateAge function and then pass in the user's year of birth as 2015 and the current year as 2020, we're gonna get our expected output 5. Amazing. If you've done this, congratulations, you've written your first test. You're a test-driven developer. Back to our web browser, remember that when we input the user's year of birth 2015, for example, if the current year is 2020 and we click on the tell me button, we're supposed to see a response below the tell me button which says you are 5 years old. When we go back to our index.html file, you see that on line 12 our form has an event listener on submit which calls an updateDomWithAge function. So what that function is supposed to do is use the calculateAge function to calculate the user's age and then update the DOM, that's a web page, with the user's age. Let's write a test that ensures the user's age is displayed on form submit, just like we did before. Since we're not running the test in our browser, that means that the global document.body.innerHTML property is going to be empty. Remember, we're running this in the terminal. So what we're going to do is give the document.body.innerHTML property our own value. So document.body.innerHTML, and then let's go to the index.html file And what we are testing for is the form and the h3 class result. The h3 tag with class result is where we're going to be returning the output to the user. So if the user is 5 years old, we're going to return you are 5 years old. So since we'll need just the form and the h3 tag with class result, let's copy that and go back to the index.test.js file, and we're going to paste it right in the document.body.innerHTML property. Don't forget to indent. Now that we have our document.body.innerHTML property, we can go ahead to call the updateDomWithAge function. Since we've not created this function yet, let's scroll up and right on line 6, we're going to create our updateDomWithAge function, and it's going to be empty for now. Alright, after calling our updateDomWithAge function, at this point our document object model, our web page, should have been updated. Once we call our updateDomWithAge function, it's supposed to update our DOM and then add you are 5 years old or you are whatever age old to the h3 tag with class result. So we're going to get the results element, and that is document.querySelector. Let's target the class results. Now that we have the result element, the next one we're going to do is expect result element dot inner text. So we're going to update the h3 tag with class of result, remember, and its inner text is supposed to be you are 5 years old. So in order for this to work, we have to give our input field a value which our function is going to use. So we don't need the placeholder right here. Let's add a value attribute and then 2015. We also don't need this on submit function right here in the test file. Let's run our test to see what we have. Open a terminal and npm test. Look at that. 1 test failed and 1 passed. So expected you are 5 years old instead received undefined, and that's because our function is not returning anything at the moment. Back to our updateDomWithAge function. Remember, we're going to be calling the calculateAge function inside here. So right on line 7, let's get the current year. So const current year is equal to get the current year in JavaScript, I will call the new date method, and that's going to return the date. And this also has other methods as its properties, and there's a get full year property for that. The new date.get full year method is going to return the current year. So right now it's 2020. This is supposed to return 2024 as the current year, and then year of birth. So the user's year of birth is going to be from the input field. To get that, the document.querySelector, and let's see what class we give our input field, year of birth. We'll copy that and then paste on line 8. Remember to add the dot. Okay, now we have the current year and we have the year of birth. The next thing is the user's age. So user age is equal to, we're going to call the calculateAge function and then passing the 2 parameters, year of birth and the current year. Okay, now we have the user's age. What we're going to do next is get the result element, and back to our code, we see that the result element has a class of result. So document.querySelector and then result. Finally, result element dot inner text is equal to user age, years old. Let's add an exclamation mark, and we'll also have to add that here on line 32. You are 5 years old, you are user age old. So that's our updateDomWithAge function. Let's see if this works. Back to our terminal and then npm test. Our test still fails. Look at this. Displays the user's age on form submit. Expected you are 5 years old received you are 9 years old. Let's see what the problem is. Now, to debug this, what we're going to do is log the current year to the console just to be sure we're getting it right. Let's add a string to identify a logged variable. We'll also log the year of birth. Let's run our test again. Now when we scroll up, look at this console.log year of birth is returning HTML input element, and that's the problem. So for year of birth, we're getting the document query selector year of birth, that's the input field, but we need the value, not the element itself. So this gets the element, we want the value from that element, and to get the value, we'll write dot value. All right, now we can remove the log statements and try running our test again. We still have an error, and when we go to our test, we see expected you are 5 years old, received you are 20 years old. What's the problem? Now let's go to the HTML for our code and we'll check the value attribute again, and notice that in 2015 we have an extra double quotes, so let's remove that. We'll try again. Awesome, our test has passed. Calculates the user's age, displays the user's age on form submit. I also noticed that for our calculateAge function, we made a mistake with the C in calculate. It's supposed to be small letter and yours in capital letter. So let's quickly change that. Instead of calculateAge with a big C, we have calculateAge with a small c. Alright, just to be sure, we'll run our test again. Nice. Now that we've written the function and our test has passed, let's go ahead and use the updateDomWithAge function in our application. So to do that, let's create an index.js file, which our application is calling. So when we go to the index.html file, you can see right here on line 2 in the script type text like JavaScript src index.js. So that's the JavaScript file our index.html file is expecting. So back to the index.test.js file, let's copy the updateDomWithAge function and the calculateAge functions. So we'll copy those functions and then we'll paste them in the index.js file. Now that we have that, we're going to export these two functions and then import them in the index.test.js file. So to export, we'll use the module.exports property, and inside it we want to export the calculateAge function and the updateDomWithAge function. Alright, now that we've exported it, let's import it in our index.test.js file and rerun our test. To import it, const calculateAge and updateDomWithAge equal to require index. Alright, so this is the structuring in case you don't know. We imported calculateAge, updateDomWithAge the same way we exported it right here on line 15 in the index.js file. So let's run our test to be sure everything is working well. Nice, our test is still passing. Now that we have that, let's go back to our application and see what it looks like. Alright, I can tell you how old you are if you tell me your age. 2015, tell me. We saw that you are 5 years old and then the page had to reload, and that's because it's a default event for JavaScript when you run a form submit function. So in order to not have that, we're gonna have to call the event.preventDefault method. So right here on line 7, event.preventDefault. Okay, let's try again. 1993, tell me. Awesome, you are 27 years old. That's good. We have a problem though, one last problem. Let's rerun our test. You see that our test fails now, and that's because we've made change to the updateDomWithAge function. So look at this, cannot be property prevent default of undefined. So our updateDomWithAge function in the index.test.js file is expecting an argument event that has the method prevent default. So it's expecting an argument event that has a method prevent default. Now to make that work, let's just simulate it. Since we won't really be using the prevent default inside the index.test.js file, but we need that to enable our function run well. So as an argument, we have an object with a prevent default property, and that prevent default property is a function. This can be empty. Let's try running our test again. Also, we have a test running well. So our test passed and our application works well. Let's try for 2004. Tell me you are 16 years old. Amazing. Now, when writing tests for our application, there's another thing we need to know, and that's test coverage. Test coverage represents how much of our code is covered by our test. Are we testing every part of our code? How do we know that we're testing every part of our code? How do we know what part of our code is not tested? So that's basically test coverage. Let's assume that we've not written this test for the updateDomWithAge function, and we go back to our terminal and run the npm test command. So look at this, our test is passing, we don't have any failing test, and our application is working. How do we know that we're not testing a part of our application? How do we know that there's a function not being tested here? Remember that our application can grow into a very big application with different functions, different things being done. So how do we know which part of the application is not being tested? How do we know how much of our application is being covered by our test? That's test coverage. So in order to check the test coverage with Jest, we'll go to the package.json file, and then right in the test script on line 7, we're going to add a collect coverage flag. Collect and then coverage. All right, now we have that. Back to the index.test.js file. Let's open the terminal and run the test again. Look at that, our test is passing, but then look at we have a new table showing up in our terminal, and we have red lines here, file stmts, and then what you should notice, this uncovered line 7 to 13. So we're covering like 45.45% of our code, and we're not covering line 7 to line 13 of our index.js file. Now, what's on line 7 to 13 of our index.js file? Look at that. The updateDomWithAge function from event.preventDefault to result.element.innerText. So when we come back to the index.test.js file and uncomment our code, let's try to run our test again. Nice. Everything is in green lines. 100 for stmts, branch 100, lines 100. There's no uncovered lines. So that's it for test coverage. We've successfully written our test cases, run them, and the application is working well. Jest also has other matches. The matcher we used in this course was to be. We expect this to be this. When you come over to the documentation and then you click on using matchers, you see that there are other matchers. There's to be, there's to equal, we expect this to equal this. There's to not be, we expect this to not be this. You know, when you're trying to test for something to not be something else. Truthiness and all that. So what we just covered are the basics of test-driven development and how to get started with Jest. There are a lot more you could do with Jest and TDD, to be greater than, to be less than, and so on and so forth. So this documentation is quite rich. You can come and check it out yourself and see what the different options are. So I hope that you've learned how TDD, test-driven development, works from this short course and why it is important. This has been a good one for me, teaching you, and I'd love to do this again. So see you in my next course.